Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews. It's your hosts Iain and Gary.
Hello.
And today we're joined by Geoff.
Hi there.
For our Christmas edition of Off the Shelf Reviews, we're going to take a look at The Ref, which came out in 1994. Iain, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows Denis Leary's character Gus, who is a professional jewel thief, and he has just robbed a house in a small town. The police are after him, and so he decides to take a family hostage, and the mother and father of the family, Kevin Spacey and Judy Davis, are probably the worst hostages he could have ever come across. They argue like nobody else, and he has to spend a few hours with them and ultimately realizes that he could have been probably better off being caught by the police.
Who are you fucking people?
Caroline and Lloyd Chesser. What's your name?
Fuck you, that's my name.
It is a Christmas movie, but it is also a comedy, sort of crime drama. And I would say that it is perhaps a forgotten Christmas movie.
Oh, definitely. We'd never heard of this film when we decided to review it, and it's so weird that nobody's really heard of this film. I have shoved this film straight into my top 3 favourite Christmas movies. You know, you have your favourites, you have your Lethal Weapons and your Die Hards and your Scrooged and blah blah blah. But The Ref just thrusted itself in and just is brilliant. I mean, Denis Leary, obviously an American comedian, is brilliant as Gus. He wants that one final score so that he can happily retire and, you know, move off to Jamaica, I think it is. But he gets fucking stuck in this godforsaken hellhole. And on top of that, you've got Kevin Spacey and Judy Davis playing this married couple who you really get pulled in that they absolutely fucking hate each other.
They are the most dysfunctional family I've seen portrayed, especially in a Christmas movie. The film actually opens up with a nice montage. You hear the music, you hear the sleigh bells, the snow, the window shoppers, the food. It's kind of romanticizing it. It's almost setting that scene of the idyllic American Christmas. And of course, we're then taken to the counsellor, Dr. Wong, who has them both there. And straight away, you're almost attuned to the dialogue, the snappy, witty comebacks that they both have to each other. And they kind of escalate to the point where it gets beyond being venomous to each other, to the point where it is borderline pure, seething hatred for each other. And that is where the golden comedy moments come from. It is that animosity, the hating of each other. It's where the comedy really comes from.
I have everything I need. I'm actually a very content person.
Oh, what a liar. You're so unhappy you can hardly breathe. And I feel it in every gesture and every silence, and I'm miserable. How can we both be in the marriage and I'm miserable and you're content?
Luck?
And it's a well-written screenplay. There's plenty of depth to the characters, and the depth of those characters is revealed through the arguments that occur between the husband and wife. And Denis Leary's character, Gus, the classic moment is he takes the wife as a hostage so that he can try to get his getaway from the police as the curfew's about to come down and everybody's looking for him. Gets in the back seat with the husband and wife in the front seat. He's like, go on, drive. And within a few seconds, they can't help themselves. They're arguing. And he goes, oh God, I've hijacked my parents.
Yeah.
And that really sets up the whole film then for this interplay between Gus, who ironically becomes a more effective psychologist in this crazy breakdown of a relationship than the actual psychologist that the film starts with.
He pretty much is the film's anti-hero. There's a comment made early on in the film by the girl, and she's like, well, you know, it's Christmas, so maybe if they catch him, they'll let him go. It's that Christmas spirit. And so as an audience member, you're kind of watching the film, and as the film kind of goes from serious back to comedy again, in the back of your mind, you're also kind of wondering as to will he get caught? Will they actually let him go? Or will something Christmas related actually intervene and cause him to get away with it in the end? And because, you know, he is waving a gun around, he is threatening to kill people and shoot people. But it's almost the fact that the married couple are kind of almost ignorant to the fact that they are in this life and death situation. They are still more interested in their own conflicts. The psychology of it is actually quite fascinating to watch as well, especially if you look at it from the screenplay point of view, that the film perhaps could have even benefited from actually being a stage performance, because there was no grand sets or epic action sequences. It was just all with the dialogue. And on top of that, again, you could also say that it is not essentially a Christmas movie, but then the majority of the most well-remembered Christmas movies, they are only remembered as Christmas movies because they actually take place on Christmas Day or around Christmas time. It's kind of like, that is the backdrop to these movies.
Well, this one is set on Christmas Eve, and if you take away the Christmas element, you do still have a really good comedy about a broken marriage, which inadvertently ends up getting a convict involved who explains to them the problems that they have in their marriage. I mean, there's that scene where he has them on the floor and he asks the wife, you know, did you actually say you were going to quit smoking? And she's like, yes. And he's like, well, you're a liar. And then he points the gun at Kevin Spacey and he says, did you see the fucking stop sign? And Kevin Spacey's like, yes. And he's like, well, you're a fucking liar.
You are a liar. Capital L, small I, small a, small r, period.
So the two of you obviously both have problems, but you are completely blind and oblivious to your own problems, but will happily point out the problems of the other person. And I do generally feel this is a really good Christmas movie because, I mean, you do have all those little silly elements coming in later on. You know, you have the cops turning up so that they can have a warm cup of cocoa, you know, and get warmed up from the cold. And then you have the family coming over and having the big elaborate dinner. But it's the way, you know, Denis Leary is there and he's trying to explain to him that, you know, fucking hell, you've got this big house, you've got this huge family, you've got all this fucking money, it's fucking Christmas Eve, and you're all miserable as fuck. You know, I'm the guy who's actually stuck here and I should be fucking miserable.
Listen, I'm asking my son a question.
No, you're not. You're not.
He's never disciplined him.
If you had not sent him to that prison.
It's not a prison.
Oh, yes,
military academy. I went there. I was.
Oh, yeah, for a summer. I go for my whole entire high school life.
You were sent there because high schools wouldn't enroll you anymore. They were.
Yeah, what do you expect?
All of the dummy's fault. You never ever stuck.
That's it. What the hell is wrong with you people? You're supposed to be a family. How can you talk to each other like that? Just go on Oprah and get it over with. Christ.
I like the scene where it's his accomplice, his getaway driver. And
Murray.
Murray. And he's down at the... he's trying to get a boat so that they can make their getaway because there's roadblocks set up everywhere. And, you know, everything is just going wrong for Denis Leary's character right now. And then his friend's like, I've got a boat, but there's a problem. It needs a part. And he's just like banging the phone off the side in frustration just because it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And he's still stuck with his family, knowing that the rest of the family are about to arrive, that the son's going to come back, and that he's running out of rope, he's running out of alternatives to actually keep them confined. He's got the curfew that's inbound.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those tense moments that the film kind of reminds you of when it's hitting you over the head with some really ridiculous dialogue.
Back to you, Karen.
I'm in hell. Connecticut is the 5th ring of hell. The fuck is that?
See, I was very surprised when we watched this film because it has some not so slapstick comedy moments, but really funny comedic dialogue moments. But then it gets really serious. You know, where you know they are talking about obviously the affairs that the wife has had, and obviously the failings in their marriage, and the bills and the debts that they're in, and so you feel really bad for the characters. And then they just start swearing at each other, and you can't help but laugh because it's just so funny. It's like the scene where the son Jesse has come back from military academy, and Denis Leary is getting the house prepared for the family to come over. So he's got Jesse tied up, and Jesse just wants to leave with Denis Leary. He's like, look, I've got all this money, we can just run down to the docks and get on the boat. And it's a really serious moment where Denis Leary sits him down and says, look, you know, my life isn't perfect. I'm constantly on the run. I'm always being chased by cops. I have no family. My accomplice is an alcoholic wheelman, you know, who's fucking inept at anything, and I'm constantly on edge. Why would you want this life?
Yeah,
you know?
it's when he says to him, you know, once you start running, you'll never stop.
Yeah.
So, and it gives the son pause for thought to actually comprehend, you know, what his life would be like if he did do this, knowing that he might have a dysfunctional family. And this is where, you know, the film's real heartfelt message comes in, is that no matter how dysfunctional your family is, even on festive times of the year like Christmas or Thanksgiving, that, you know, you can still actually respect and love each other and work things out. It's just that some of the methods, like for instance the ref, is quite an unorthodox method of resolving all of those conflicts, but I think what the film speaks to is all of those families out there that would probably empathise with the characters in this movie, because you might have had similar situations or scenarios that have happened before or reoccur every single year. And
there's also kind of an element of almost like a bit like reality TV as well, where you're getting a window in on a nice juicy bit of gossip, because as the film sort of rolls on, you know, as they're throwing accusations at each other, more and more comes out about what each other has been up to and what wrongs they've done each other. So you get that kind of that the pacing of the film carries you along, because you're constantly on a journey of discovery about what's been going on in their lives and how they've also received it. And the dialogue is sufficiently interesting that really these are the key set pieces. There's at no point with the like extended dialogue set pieces do you feel that you're getting bored or that the pace of the film is slowing down, because those moments are brilliantly acted and they're so expressive and there's real emotion behind them. Kevin Spacey's performance is excellent, as is what was her
Judy
name?
Davis.
Judy Davis, yeah. They were, you know, top actors, really at the top of their game, really putting their heart and soul into the roles. And I think if you at all into any kind of family situations, or you've even got a slightly quirky family, you'll instantly start to relate. And even if you don't have a family like that, you'll be morbidly curious as you watch the car crash of their marriage come together in The Ref. It's brilliant.
See, something I realised through watching it, I mirrored Kevin Spacey's performance in this to American Beauty. He plays that, you know, downed husband who is just, you know, having a bad time,
giving up on life,
and his wife absolutely hates him and is cheating on him. And I mirrored it, and I just thought, you know, everybody talks about American Beauty. Why are they talking about the fucking Ref? This is where he learned his skill. It's some classic scenes with Kevin Spacey, and just the way he just spouts off. I love the scene where he's tied up to the bed, and, you know, his son and his wife are attacking him because he's never letting them have a moment, and obviously, you know, is always picking up on their faults. And then he just completely reverses the whole conversation. And
Shut up! You know, you and my wife have a lot in common. You both think you have some right to life working out the way you want it to, and if it doesn't, you get to act any way you want. Problem with that is someone still has to be responsible. I'd love to run around taking classes and playing with my inner selfness. I'd love the freedom to be a pissed-off criminal without any responsibility, except I don't have the time. But you don't see me with a gun. You don't see me sleeping with someone else.
I think he's my favourite character, actually, because he develops really interestingly. At first you think he's just going to be a classic ineffectual, you know, browbeaten man to start off with, because Judy's character is like and he's just like, oh, you know, like, don't. As he runs the stop sign at the first thing in the car, you get the sense that he's that dithering, not quite all with it dad. But then as the film goes on, you realise he's just playing a role, and he's been doing that the whole time.
Yeah.
And you get this moment of self-discovery in the lead character, in Kevin Spacey's character, which is facilitated by the whole events. I mean, they both have these epiphany moments, really, and the film builds up to these. But Kevin Spacey's character, as he gets to that moment when he's just prepared to go,
Excuse me! Excuse me! Excuse me! Excuse me!
It's really good. It's really entertaining to watch and very funny. That's the main thing about the film. The film has quite a few tropes in it, and there's some classic 90s gags, and you can kind of see the setups coming. But those aside, I mean, that you can see they've just chucked those in to keep Hollywood happy. What's really funny and really lasting about the film is the thought and depth of the characters and how comical they are.
I attribute that primarily to the screenwriter for the movie, who was the same guy who wrote the screenplay for The Fisher King.
Yeah.
And I just think that the script is what actually made this movie work, with the actors just bringing those words off the page fantastically. It's a very slick movie. You'll empathise with all of the characters. You'll hate the bitch of a mother. You'll love the ending. There's so much there to keep you going, that keep you riveted just to listen to the poetry of the dialogue. It is fantastic. And there are some other scenes that take you away from the movie, where you see the drunken Santa Claus, or where you see the imbecilic cops that are just completely inept at their job because they've never had to deal with anything like this before. And there's even like a few running gags where at the beginning of the movie where he's maced in the face with cat piss after he robs the safe, and so throughout the entire movie they're like, what's that smell?
I swear to God, he doesn't call.
It smells like piss.
So I think my favourite scene of the movie is perhaps it's probably the cops. For me, it kind of felt like a prelude to Super Troopers.
Yeah.
It's one of the scenes where the general of the police, the head there,
yeah,
and he's just like, he's almost had enough of this, and so he tells this other guy, screw it, it's done. So he's like, okay, well, you're going to be fired. And he comes back later on and tells him, like, yeah, you're out of the door by Boxing Day.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you know what? I fucked your wife.
I fucked your wife, Bob.
Whilst you were away, Bob. 3 times.
3 times, Bob.
3 times, Bob. She said you never went 3 times, Bob.
Bob.
I love that guy.
So there are a lot of nice little scenes outside of the actual main story that are also filled with gags as well to keep you going.
So like I said, I love this movie, and I have a real difficulty picking favourite scenes because there are just so many memorable scenes that I just sit there and I think, fucking hell, what would it be like to be in that situation? I mean, the dinner sequence with the headband of candles, and you got, like I said, with Murray, who's sat in the bar and he's like, I'm looking for a fucking waste of space called Murray. Waste of space called fucking Murray? But I think my favourite scene has to be the scene where Kevin Spacey finally stands up in front of his whole family and has a heart-to-heart moment with his wife and explains to her that, all the decisions that you've blamed on me, I had to make because you were afraid to make it. And the mother, the sister-in-law first goes to say something, and he walks over to the Christmas tree and he fucking smashes the Christmas tree up with a fire poker and then carries on talking. And then his mother interrupts him and he just looks at her and says,
Is it possible for you to shut the fuck up for 10 seconds?
It's like, yeah!
Yeah, that mental scene is very... it gradually builds up, it gradually gets more and more mental, and they gradually give less and less of a fuck as the film goes on. And they get more and more honest as the film goes on. But for me, my favourite scene is this kind of turning point moment where Gus can no longer hide and try to juggle the situation. He has to appear as a face, and they all have to come down and start having a family dinner together with Gus as an invite. So they fake it that Gus is their marriage guidance counsellor. And it's at that moment where it's definitely my favourite scene. I don't want to give too much away, but the interplay of the confusion where everybody thinks that Gus is the psychologist, but Gus is just saying whatever he wants. He doesn't care, and he's just cutting it as straight as he likes, and it just triggers other people to start doing exactly the same, just putting the truth over in the bluntest of ways, and they start getting drunk, and it gets even more brutal. And then from that moment on, it really starts getting crazy, really starts getting a laugh a minute.
Because when one is constructing highways of communication between two people, it's sometimes a good idea to clear the road and slowly introduce exit signs.
That's funny. I heard something very similar on Oprah last week.
I highly recommend The Ref. There are so many Christmas movies out there, and there's probably the ones that you rewatch year in, year out around the festive time. I'm pretty sure that for the most of you, you have probably never even seen or heard of The Ref. If there is one Christmas movie that if you want a change of pace, I highly recommend you watch it. You will be pleasantly surprised. You'll have that warm Christmas feeling come the end of it, and it's a really good feel-good movie. I highly recommend The Ref. It is a forgotten gem of a film.
I definitely recommend it. Kevin Spacey is brilliant. Judy Davis is brilliant. Denis Leary is brilliant. The inept cops will make you laugh. The mother you'll just want to punch, and you'll just be like, what if my family was like this? What the fuck would I do? So yeah, definitely recommend it.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's in my top 10 Christmas movies for sure. And I would say there are films coming out today that could take some leaves out of the Ref's book, because the character building was fantastic, and there was even thought gone into all the side characters that you hardly saw in the film. They were interesting, and it was entertaining and funny. Brilliant.
Have a great Christmas and a happy holiday. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Have a holly jolly Christmas. It's the best time of the year. I don't know if there'll be snow, but have a cup of cheer. Have a holly jolly Christmas, and when you walk down the street,
Great. I just beat up Santa Claus.